So I have a bit of a confession. I don't really like Monza. Between the notorious turn 1 pile-ups and not being able to find real pace on this track in different sims, I've more or less avoided Monza for a good 12 months. But I thought it was about time that I changed that. So in the Porsche Cup car, I take on Monza once more, and after finding some good practice pace, I was quietly optimistic that we might be able to get a few results here. But of course, practice is one thing and the race is a completely different story. So how do we get on in these events? Let's dive in and find out. Oh, and if you're a subscriber of this channel, I've got an update on an announcement at the end of this video. So let's jump in. So straight into race number 1, and we have managed to qualify in pole position. A really tidy lap in qualifying trim puts us on the front row here. We get the green line and it's a decent jump away along with most of the field behind, and I've got to admit that at this point I have absolutely no idea where the best braking marker is down into turn 1. We get to the 100-meter board, we hit the brakes, and it's car 19 on the inside there, out brakes us, drops it into the corner, a little bit of 0x contact, but we are out the other side, a little bit of drama behind, but basically the whole field managing to cleanly get through turn number 1. Now the slipstream effect of these Porsche Cup cars is very good, and immediately we're going to get a little bit of a run on car 19, but at this stage I'm quite keen just to settle in here and see how the race unfolds. Clean opening lap was always going to be job number 1 here, and we managed to get through that second chicane nicely. A little bit cautious here on cold tyres, but we are seeing a little bit of a gap forming up to the cars behind, so just want to get through these first corners nice and safely, tuck in behind this car 19, follow on for a few laps and see how the race unfolds. End of lap number 1, and we were immediately going to see the tactics of this car number 19, running that very dangerous line towards the pit entry barrier, trying to entice me into the barrier there, and then running all the way along the inside line back across to the racing line as we head down to turn number 1, and coming out of a Ascari on lap number 2 here, immediately going left and right, trying to break the toe. And I've got to admit, this isn't the driving I want to be doing, and certainly not the game that I want to be playing here. But over the next few laps we tuck in behind, get ourselves comfortable following this car around the Monza circuit, and the 3 podium current runners here are just starting to get away from the chasing pack, so the 3 of us look like we'll be battling it out here for a potential race win. Start of lap number 4, and we're going to get a nice run here down the front straight, and he moves over to go and try and break the toe, but actually opens the door up for me to go onto the inside. Now he squeezes me right across the circuit there very aggressively. Again, not the sort of tactics that I would be running here in this race, but we do manage to outbrake him into turn 1 and get the lead of this race for the very first time, avoiding any contact, and I've got to say, pretty hairy moment. Now with some clear air in front, I was ready to put some of my qualifying pace to use. I had a good margin in qualifying and thought we might be able to sneak away from these chasers. Unfortunately, at my first opportunity to do so, we outbrake ourselves into the second chicane and now are immediately on the defensive, running all the way to the inside to cover off the first Lesmo, and car 19 looking very aggressive here, trying to get the lead of this race back. We make a bit of a touch there into the second Lesmo, and that is going to really affect my exit out of that corner. Car 19 now with a good run, he's going to take the outside line towards Ascari. We're going to try and hold and defend this one, but he's got too much of the car in front, so we decide to back out of it, get into the racing line through these corners here, not cause a drama for ourselves, and once again we are back to position number 2. But with that car 19 showing his intent to be aggressive and wanting to be in the lead of this race, I decided with the group of cars from 4th backwards starting to close in once again that I'd actually try and show my intent not to try and pass at every opportunity. And hopefully that would allow him to just get on with his race, me sit in behind and try and grow the gap to the cars behind. A few laps of that and it was certainly starting to work. Car 13 was still holding on really nicely and making it a trio out front, but that gap behind 2P4 was growing, and it was sort of cementing a podium finish. Even if a passing opportunity goes bad, run wide for example, I'd still be up in the top 3 from a moment like that. Lap number 11, and was now starting to look at any opportunities I had to try and get the lead of this race in the closing laps. Through the first chicane, car 19 with a bit of a wiggle on exit, unfortunately not able to capitalize on that one, but it is going to put me into the slipstream here, and maybe there'll be an opportunity up at the second chicane. Immediately car 19 goes to the inside with a defensive move there, right to the inside of the track. So we're going to have a look around the outside of the second chicane, and this isn't the wisest of all moves. Not really able to get alongside enough, and all it does is compromise my exit. I'm now having to go towards the inside of this track here to defend against car 13, but car 13, as I said, was showing a lot less aggression than car 19 was, so didn't have to defend as hard through the Lesmos here, and a good exit out of Lesmo 2 got me back on the hunt for that P1 position. Start of lap number 12, and it's another slipstream run down the front straight. Still that car 19 trying to break the toe, and we were still just managing to get to the back of him before the braking zone. This time round we're going to look to have a better exit out of the first chicane, but he's a little bit slower in the first part of the chicane than I expected. We get a little 0x contact, and we're just continuing needing to adjust our tactics a little bit here in the closing laps. Up towards the second chicane now, and by this stage of the race I was also noting that the front tyres were starting to lose a little bit of performance versus the beginning of the race. You couldn't really push the car as hard as we expected to. There's another example of almost outbraking myself into the second chicane, so I was making those mental notes for future races and adjusting my tactics a little bit, trying to go a little bit more under the limit, and that was going to potentially find me a little bit more speed. Out of the second Lesbo, decent exit out of here, was still in the slipstream of that car 19, and car 13 was still trying to hold on a little bit, but never really through this race put any significant pressure on me unless I was making a mistake myself. Into Ascari on this lap, and once again we're going to try and push really hard through here, getting a little bit more aggressive on the curbing here, over in a decent exit once again, but behind in the mirror we can see that the car in P3 has a moment coming out of Ascari. Here it is on the replay, just misses the turn in a little bit and just too much turn on the car as he clips that sausage curb on the inside and loses the rear of the car. Unfortunate for that car as he was having a really good race to that point. So that left us with a grandstand finish with myself and the car 19 in the front of this race. Coming out of second Lesmo, we're looking to just get into the slipstream here. You can see that we've really pushed on this particular lap, actually looking to set the fastest lap of the race at this point, a little bit up on our previous best lap. Through Ascari once again, we've pushed a little bit harder into the Ascari that time. It hasn't quite worked out for us, and you can see the 19 car sort of recognises that. At half a second he's going to go left and right trying to break the toe, and I'm having to play the game now if I'm going to have any chance of an opportunity on the very final lap of this race coming up. Coming into the Parabolica, and the car 19, he does make a mistake. He gets a bit of a slide on exit from the Parabolica, loses drive traction, and we've got just enough turn in the car to go down the inside on corner exit and actually find ourselves in the lead of this race, starting the very final lap. I'm going to run very defensive here, want this inside line into turn number 1. Again, I'm going to try and brake as deep as we can, but car 19 brakes even deeper. We managed to get over the first part of the chicane, and then unfortunately a bit of contact in the second part of the first chicane there, and even grabbed the pit lane limiter button in the process of that, and we lose our opportunity to win this race. Back to the replay though, and let's have a look at what's unfolded there. A big slide from the leader through the final turn gives me that opportunity to go down the inside and claim the lead of the race. Down into turn 1 though, car 19 outbrakes me, really commands that space initially on the chicane, and then I probably turn in a little bit too early, through the second part of that first chicane, and we make a little bit of that side-to-side contact. I'm just going to put this one down to a racing incident, and probably something that's very common at Monza. See, at the chase here, he just does a good job outbraking me, and I give him plenty of space here, and then really turn in probably a little bit too narrow, just that little bit of netcode as well. So it was an unfortunate way to end, but I've got to admit, a lot of fun at this first Monza race, and great racing with that driver in car number 19. We're going to come across the line claiming that P2 position, and 0 incident points was both the safety rating and iRacing gain that I was looking for here, and certainly not something that I expected in my first P Cup Monza race. On to race number 2 then, and it's another great qualifying lap that has put me on the front row. Expecting this race to be a little bit better with more cars close to my qualifying time, waiting for the green light, there it is, and it's a terrible start from me. It's a poor reaction, too much wheel spin, and immediately we're going to go 3 wide into the first corner. Now I'm quite keen to hold on to position here on the inside, and in fact it's the 2 cars next to me that connect with each other and head off track. We end up giving space to a car that no longer exists through the second part of the first chicane, and now we are under fire by car 9, who had a terrific start. We'll look back at that in a second, but he's all under the rear wing as we head up towards the second chicane. Now he does throw a move up the inside, very assertive there. I'm being a little bit more cautious on cold tyres, don't want to have any moments, and there's definitely space behind us. So as he makes a mistake out of the second chicane, we decide just to tuck in and try and get this race underway. The leader is already out to 2 seconds of an advantage, but that gap behind, I was quite keen to establish this position through the second Lesmo, still being a bit cautious, and then in the rear mirror I glance a car that ends up off in the gravel going back towards the circuit, unsure how much carnage that was going to create. So let's have another look at the start from the perspective of car number 9. He makes a really good jump away from position 9 on the grid, moving towards the inside there. Now we can see the 3 wide situation up ahead that I was involved in. It's those 2 outside cars, they just touch in the braking zone, and car 9 absolutely throws it up the inside at the chicane, getting a really good exit there, and then ultimately you saw him pass me at turn number 3. And here's the moment that I saw in the mirror. Car 14, too much curb at the second Lesmo, loses the rear end, finds himself in the gravel, and then back across track. He's missed the fence, and everyone on track misses him as well. What an incredible moment that was. So despite a bit of chaos there, we do manage to get a clean start and find ourselves in a bit of a groove with a 4-car lead battle pack starting to form. Now car 9, he's on the hunt now of car 22, and I've just spent the last few laps getting in the groove, setting a 147.38 on the second flying lap of the race, just getting into that groove now and hoping to see how this one unfolds. Quite happy to sit in this position at the moment, particularly with the moves that car 9 put on us earlier. We knew he was going to be aggressive, and he's going to take some of that encouraging start with him as we charge down to turn number 3 on lap 3 here. As we head towards that, he's got a good run on the leader, and as we get to the braking zone, he does throw it up the inside there, and he's got that inside run. He's very late on the brakes. Car 22 then decides to try and go around the outside through the second part of the chicane, which is certainly an odd move, and it just opens up the pathway there for me to shoot through and claim the lead of the race. Now, as great as it is to be in the lead of an iRacing event, I didn't necessarily want to be here. Car 9 giving me a nudge down into a Ascari there, and with the attitude that he'd shown in the race so far, being in front of this car for the next 10 laps didn't exactly excite me. Coming down to turn 1 on lap number 4, we are arriving right behind here a car that has exited the pit lane after some lap 1 damage. We're flashing the lights there and hoping that he can just move out of the way as we head down towards turn number 3, and thankfully in the middle of the turn he absolutely does. Now we're going to see a bit of a gap between cars 2 and 3 at the moment, so we're going to try and capitalise on that, and we get to turn number 3, and unfortunately we just take a little bit too much of that first curbing we find ourselves with a slow down penalty. Now we have to ease off the throttle on the way up to Ascari, letting car number 9 by, and unfortunately that results in the pack all forming up together once again, with that car 22 now back at the back of the train after that moment he had with car 9 earlier in the race. With the pressure from behind as we start lap number 5, it kind of gave more incentive for me to make moves if they were there to be made. Difference from the previous race where there wasn't too much pressure from behind. In this moment, if I wasn't to be the one passing, I would be past myself. So we go for a move down the inside into turn number 1. We get on the brake right side by side over that first curbing, give enough space on the exit here, and we're going to claim the lead of this race once again. Heading down towards turn number 3, the car 9's right on the inside there, he's right under the rear wing, and once again a little bit of a gap opens up behind his cars 22 and 13 also swap positions. Right down to turn number 3 for another lap, and car 9 goes down the inside, and as we try and get back under the rear wing there, we pick up another slow down penalty. Very, very frustrating that one, as it was the second one in 2 laps, and now with the cars 22 and 13 directly behind, well, this was going to be a much trickier one to get rid of with those cars so close. We pull over and we start that slow down process, and the hope is that we're just going to lose out one position here to car 22. As we come up to Ascari, he does come and make the move here, but it's a little bit of a tap in the braking zone, really unsettles the car, and I have to let car 13 by as well. Coming out of that corner now, down in 4th position, and well, it's a messy couple of laps for me, and I'm having to tell myself, just settle down a little bit and get back into my groove. Over the next few laps we do settle back in, and we're quite happy to sit back here in 4th place watching the trio of cars ahead. Car 13 makes a move down to in the first Lesmo up to 2nd position, and then at the start of the very next lap, car 22 tries a bit of a half move to get that position back, makes contact at that critical turn-in moment and finds himself off in the grass, and I am promoted up to position number 3. Potentially being a little bit patient will pay off in these remaining laps. Lap number 9 through Ascari here, and I definitely had a little bit of advantage on car 13 through this corner, just again staying in that slipstream range, and the big picture thing at the moment was that we were putting time into the 4th position car at this stage of the race. Down to the Parabolica here at the end of lap number 9, and it's the leader who is going to make a little bit of an odd mistake here right at the last phase of the acceleration out of that corner. He loses the rear of the car, and we are able to scoot around the outside, just missing that car in the process, and that leaves just 2 of us at the front of this race, battling it out for the win. Now, I've got to admit that I was quite happy that it was car 13 who was left in this leading pack. Out of all the cars that were been racing, he was the one that was showing probably the most sensible attitude when it comes to his driving. No weaving, no silly manoeuvres, not being too aggressive, and that gave me some confidence that we'd be able to race him pretty well. Start of lap number 12, and we were going to get one of our first opportunities here to claim the lead of this race. A really good slipstream and enough of a door open there down the inside to take that run. Side by side into the chicane, we're getting pretty familiar with this one, leaving enough space there, no contact on the exit, and side by side now down towards turn number 3. Just as like earlier in the race, car 13 now directly under the rear wing, having a little bit of a look, and he's just pulled out, and just as the moment as I was expecting to be able to go over and defend this corner, he's got enough of a nose in there, and he is down the inside. Careful not to take too much of that curb, and he has a real moment trying to get the second part of that second chicane. We have to back out of it to make sure we don't hit the back of him, but it's good close racing, and we're certainly enjoying it to this point. Continuing to put the pressure on now, just really hoping for one more, slightly more major mistake to give me an advantage. And as we come up towards the second to last lap of the race, down to that final corner, this is where it all kicked off on the last race. Would we get an opportunity here? Into the Parabolica for the second to last time, and I've been trying this race to be a little bit more gentle on the front tyre and allow me to be a bit better through this corner later in the race. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work out as I had hoped for this time around. We're in the slipstream at least, and we're going to have a little bit of an opportunity, although not my best opportunity to date, come the end of the straight. He's being a lot more defensive this time, so we go to the outside, braking a little bit earlier, hoping for a really good exit out of this first chicane. We go first gear, and we just get on the throttle a little bit too early, and that pushes the understeer of the car. We push out a little bit wide, catch some of that gravel, and it is far from the exit that I was hoping for. Heading down to turn number 3 though, and we're definitely not out of this race just yet. Ascari coming up where I definitely have an advantage, but car 13, he makes a bit of a mistake here, going a little bit deep into that second chicane, and that allows me to close right back up. He obviously saw the gap that was there after the first chicane, tried to capitalize on that, so he's made a little bit of a mistake there, and potentially, just potentially, we've been putting the pressure on. There might be a moment later in this lap. Through second Lesmo, they're both pushing very, very hard. You see on my time difference there, the timer coming down. That's the best I've gone through there all race. So we are pushing as hard as we can. Up to Ascari now. We actually have a little lift here to try and gain a little bit of a gap and try and carry that momentum through the corner. Go nice and deep into Ascari, a little bit shallower through here, hard on the accelerator, and we do have a little bit of a run. It wasn't all that I had hoped for, but we are in the slipstream. I'm going to hold him as narrow as possible down into the parabolica here and see if we can't force a moment, come back to the racing line last minute, and we're going to try for a late apex, hard on the throttle here. Have we got enough? And it is a really good exit, but unfortunately it's not going to be enough. That finish line comes up too fast, so nose to tail we go over the line. It's another P2 finishing position for me, and with just one incident point we're going to gain some more safety rating as well. Great racing with car 13 there, and what a time here at Monza. So we finally have a new story to tell about Monza. Now I admit that the pace that I had was a bit of a surprise here, but to be honest, I feel like I'm working out this Porsche Cup car, and I think that was simply a result of understanding the car more and getting more out of it. Considering the track selection the Porsche Cup Series have until the end of the season, I think I'll be showing up most weeks in this car, and hopefully we can continue to learn about it, and maybe more of these results are on their way. If you want to see more action from myself in the Porsche Cup Series, then please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you are a subscriber, I have an update on an announcement for you. You see, in my last Porsche Cup race video, I mentioned that I would be unable to do any sort of streaming in 2026, noting a few issues that I was having with the quality of my stream testing at the time. Well, a few comments under that video and going a bit deeper down the rabbit hole of that problem has found a solution. So this week, I will be going live on YouTube for the very first time. Now, I'm a little bit nervous about the whole thing and doing these sorts of races live with an audience, but I'd absolutely love it if you'd come along and say hi. The biggest part of the live stream is really interacting with you guys more, being able to say hi and see your names in chat, and hopefully entertain you along the way. Of course, if you like this video at any point, then please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the chat how your Monza Porsche Cup races went as well. But as always, race hard, stay positive. Might see you in the live stream. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers.